Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. From a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion, or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape.
Elon Musk speaking with Bret Baier on Fox Thursday night about DOGE and what he calls a government resolution to cut spending. But that revolution will soon continue without the billionaire. Musk also saying that his time at the head of Trump's cost-cutting agency will be coming to a close at the end of May. That's due to the 130-day limit on his official role as a special government employee. Joining us now with more details is The Hill's White House reporter, Brett Samuels. Brett, thanks for joining us. Musk has been the target of much criticism from both Congress and the public for these cuts. Now he says he'll step down. Do you think this is final, or do you expect Trump to make a move to try to keep him around?
Yeah, I think this will not be the last that we see of Elon Musk, Judy. When his special government employee status expires at the end of May, he may not be brought back in some official government capacity, but certainly I think we can continue to expect to see Elon Musk in Trump's orbit, advising Trump, and being a presence, in Trump world and in Republican politics.
So your prediction is that he's going to stay involved in some way in the political sphere?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure that he'll, be given some official title or become a full-time government employee, but certainly I would expect him to remain active. Certainly he's very close with President Trump and his allies now. So certainly, I don't think Elon Musk will disappear from the Washington scene once those 130 days are up.
Brett, lots of protests against Musk have targeted Tesla and its dealerships. Musk hinted in that interview yesterday that the Trump administration may go after Tesla vandals and even some critics who not participated in the destructive protests. Take a listen.
The real problem is not the people. It's not like the crazy guy that firebombs a Tesla dealership. It's the people pushing the propaganda that caused that guy to do it. Those are the real villains here, and we're going to go after them. And the president's made it clear we're going to go after them.
So has there been any official indication from the White House what that might look like?
Yeah, it's not entirely clear, whether there will be some kind of concerted effort to seek out people who are, pushing anti-Tesla messaging or anything. But certainly Trump has made it clear that, the Justice Department is going to, and the FBI has made clear that they're going to prioritize going after people involved in these cases targeting Teslas. So certainly the government seems prepared to devote more resources to going after these people, even if it's not, these supposed unnamed high-level people Elon Musk is referring to. Definitely seems like the government is going to make this a focus.
Brett, do you think the Tesla protests have influenced Musk's decision to step away from DOGE?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a direct connection necessarily, Judy, but certainly I think, we heard from Elon Musk recently that it's been hard for him to balance, running DOGE with being the CEO of Tesla. Obviously, Tesla now under a lot of scrutiny, both its stock price and these protests and this vandalism. So, I'm sure if you're Elon Musk, it's not necessarily a bad thing that maybe he can not divert his attention away from Tesla and maybe give a little bit more focus back to his company, which, seems like it could use it potentially.
Shifting gears a little, yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, claiming educational institutions like the Smithsonian distort American history and teach, quote, improper ideology. Walk us through exactly what this order said and what it means going forward.
Yeah, so this is a pretty unexpected order, I think, that certainly President Trump campaigned on this idea of going against, quote unquote, woke culture and efforts to, increase equity, increase diversity, and, liberals maybe tweaking language to be more inclusive. And this is one of the more, I think, sweeping and interesting steps we've seen to do that, where Trump is essentially saying that Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C. should not display artifacts or exhibits that don't promote, the greatness of American heritage, for example. So critics are certainly, I think, going to jump on this to suggest that Trump is trying to, whitewash history or get rid of certain history. This goes back to sort of book bans and that whole debate that we had during the Biden administration. So very notable effort here from Trump to kind of increase his control and his influence over institutions, even like museums here in DC.
And it's not just educational institutions, as you point out. Students have also been the target of the Trump administration. The State Department confirming it pulled 300 student visas, many of which were revoked for participating in pro-Palestinian activism. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio defending that decision.
Every country in the world has a right to deny you a visa. I'm not entitled to a visa. You're not entitled to a visa. Nobody is entitled to a visa in any other country. They can determine it and they can revoke it at any time they want. I don't understand what people don't get. A visa is a gift. It's a voluntary thing. We decide to give you a visa. We deny visas all over the world every day for a variety of reasons. And that means we can also revoke those visas. No one's entitled to a visa.
The move is almost certain to be challenged in court, but what impacts could schools see going forward?
Yeah, certainly. I think, Judy, this could have a chilling effect on educational institutions. Obviously there was this case of this Tufts University student that has really gained a lot of attention, where there's video of this student being, essentially arrested on the street over, essentially, it seems, an op-ed that she penned calling for her school to divest from connections to Israel. But certainly I think it could have a chilling effect, more institutions being more concerned about policing their language, more students maybe being concerned who are on visas about what kind of language they use and how they espouse their political beliefs. So, certainly the Trump administration making clear that they are not bowing to criticism here, and they're willing to follow through on these threats to revoke these student visas.
Brett Samuels, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
The second Trump administration is less than 100 days old, and already voters are getting ready to go back to the ballot box in two states, Wisconsin and Florida, both of which Trump won nearly 5 months ago. And just like last year, Trump ally and billionaire Elon Musk is offering cash incentives to get people registered and to the ballot box. The Hill's national political reporter Julia Manchester has been following both of these special elections and joins us now. Julia, thank you so much for joining us. So I want to start in Wisconsin. Election day is April 1st in the Badger State. The race is to fill this state Supreme Court seat. Elon Musk is going to be rallying in Wisconsin this weekend. It sounds like he's offering money for some votes there. What has he said, and what do we know so far?
Well, essentially, Elon Musk has already been spending money in this race. He's going to rally. He wants to drive up the vote. And this is really seen in many ways as a referendum or a test case for Elon Musk's political brand, as his PAC, the America PAC, is spending money in both of these races. One thing that's worth noting, though, is that these are both special election races. They are not indicative of regular turnout in on-election years. Particularly in Wisconsin, even though it certainly is a high-profile race and a lot of money is being spent in that race, it's still for a state office that may not get the same sort of attention that a federal race may get. At the same time, though, Republicans are very aware of the narrative that this could send, and they want to make sure they're driving out their base as well. In Florida, it's a different kind of scenario because you have in the 6th congressional district, a congressional district that Donald Trump and former Congressman Mike Waltz, who's now National Security Advisor, they both won this district by over 30 points. But recent polling shows that the Republican running in that race, State Senator Randy Fine, could be underperforming a bit in that state, and you also in that district, and you also see his Democratic opponent, Josh Wheel, outraising him in terms of fundraising. So that has, Republicans worried. But at the same time, Democrats say they're not necessarily convinced they're going to win this. This is all about narrowing the margin for them.
In terms of what Musk is doing, what has been the response so far from Democrats?
Well, Democrats are continuing to label Musk as this unelected oligarch. They want to use this against him and use it against Republicans, talking about the unpopularity in polls with DOGE, for example, and using some of the town hall footage in some of these Republican districts that shows constituents upset with Musk. Now, Republicans push back on that, saying that that's not indicative of how everyone feels, that these town halls, according to Republicans, could be manufactured by Democrats. So, you're seeing Democrats go on the attack, and this is why I think you're having a lot of Republicans say, look, no matter what happens, if they narrow that margin, if they win, they're going to say this is a loss for Elon Musk.
In terms of what's going on in Wisconsin, why is a judicial race sort of catching the national spotlight right now?
Well, I think part of it's a statewide race. It's a highly contested race in a swing state that could impact the way that that state Supreme Court leans. So it's seen as an ideological test in this swing state. I have had some Republicans say, though, they're trying to lower expectations and essentially say, look, normally in these off-the-year elections, when you have the Republican in power federally, oftentimes they don't do as well down the ballot in these special elections because their base isn't as motivated. They see Donald Trump in control in the White House and Republicans control in the House and the Senate. So that's why you're seeing Elon Musk and other Republicans really trying to gin up that turnout.
Want to switch gears here. Elise Stefanik's nomination for UN ambassador. Trump announced he was pulling that yesterday in order to help keep the House majority, which is, of course, is very tight. It could indicate, of course, that Republicans are scared about losing additional seats in these special elections. Hakeem Jeffries yesterday was saying that Florida elections are essentially a referendum on Trump. I think we have that sound if we could take a listen.
They seem to be panicking about the two special elections in Florida, which shocks the conscience of anybody who follows these races closely. How is it that they are even competitive at this point? Why are Republicans panicking in deep red districts? It's because their agenda is unpopular.
So, Julia, should Republicans be worried?
So, look, when you look at those two districts, the 1st Congressional District, which is in the Panhandle, and the 6th Congressional District, which is along the northern part of the Atlantic coast in Florida, they're very different. The Panhandle District, look, Republicans are not panicking about that district. That is the most conservative district in Florida. Matt Gaetz used to represent that district. There are questions, though, of whether there will be, Randy Fine, the Republican running in the 6th District, could win with a narrower than expected margin. And there has been some polling, it's been internal polling, but from a Republican firm, Fabrizio Ward, that found, yesterday that Josh Weil had a narrow lead in that state. So I think both Republicans and Democrats are very nervously looking at this, wanting to lower expectations on both sides. But it is notable that you have Donald Trump participating in town halls with Randy Fine in the 6th Congressional District, and you have DNC Chair Ken Martin going to visit that district this weekend. The 1st Congressional District, though, I wouldn't say that's competitive.
Both of these elections come as President Trump just signed an executive order targeting voter registration, and it could have a big effect on federal elections. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, essentially, this executive order requires people looking to register to vote to have a proof of citizenship. So that could be a passport, for example, a real ID, a military ID, for example. The problem, though, is that there are statistics that show, like last year from the State Department, that roughly half of Americans have a passport. Your driver's license doesn't always show proof of citizenship. So I think there are questions as to, how this could impact Americans, when they go register to vote, if it could, dissuade some Americans from registering to vote. Republicans, conservatives say this is common sense. Of course, you should have to prove your citizenship. This is something that President Trump has really hammered in on over the past number of years. There has been very low evidence of voter fraud in this country, or very low evidence that large swaths of non-citizens vote in these elections. But it is something that President Trump has chosen to drill in on.
Julia Manchester covering it all for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to get a briefing, of course, about what you guys do every day, and then we're going to talk just about, as you've heard, we have some interest in Greenland from the Trump administration.
The fight over Greenland is far from over, as you just heard from Vice President J.D. Vance speaking there to American Space Force Guardians. The controversial trip, also including Second Lady Usha Vance and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, has been scaled way back as Greenland gives the U.S. the Arctic cold shoulder. News Nation's Tom Dempsey joins us from Capitol Hill with the latest.
This trip to Greenland for Vice President J.D. Vance comes after he recently said the United States needs the island for international safety and security reasons. Vice President Vance, as well as Second Lady Usha Vance and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, departed for this trip from Joint Base Andrews earlier this morning. For some perspective here, Greenland is home to around 56,000 people, many of them with an indigenous Inuit background, and it's a self-governing territory of Denmark. But the island is also home to rare earth minerals that can be used to produce renewable energy and for making cell phones. It also has strategic air and sea routes with the Arctic, now attracting the Chinese and Russian militaries. President Donald Trump has spoken openly about wanting to acquire Greenland, and his team recently noted the impact that could have.
We need Greenland for national security and international security. So I think we'll go as far as we have to go.
If there are nuclear weapons coming at the United States, they're not coming across the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. They're coming over the poles. So having northern monitoring for our strategic defense is critical. There's just much more activity in the Arctic these days from Russia and China. The U.S. should have a growing presence there.
As part of this trip, Vice President Vance will visit the B-2 Feek space base, which is operated by the U.S. Space Force. A kind of interesting factoid here. It's actually the northernmost U.S. military installation, and it helps with missile warning and defense, as well as space surveillance. One thing that's going to be very key to watch for today with this trip is the reception that Vice President Vance gets. We might see some protests from people who live in Greenland, and the outgoing Prime Minister recently noting that this trip has allegedly caused a mess for Greenland, and he's calling on the United States to respect the integrity and democracy of Greenland. In Washington, D.C., I'm Tom Dempsey, News Nation.
News Nation's Tom Dempsey, thank you. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Judy Kurtz. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.